There are two types of mindsets in the world, and one of these is going to help you to strive, to succeed, to live out all your dreams, to find happiness and fulfillment. And the other one is going to keep you stuck, and it's going to keep you in a place that is very uncomfortable to be in. And so many people are in place number two without even realizing it. And on today's video, I'm going to be breaking down what these are and how you can switch into a more positive and empowering place. Welcome back to another video. My name is Kara Michelle and I'm here to help you live your truth. So on today's video, we are breaking down the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. And I want to start this off by saying majority of the population was brought up in a fixed mindset, myself included, and it was through a lot of the work that I've done over the past few years that allowed me to get out of this. So I want to share with you what I did as well and why this is so important to break out of this old paradigm and this old mindset. So we have fixed and we have growth. So as you can imagine, based on the words that are used to describe this, a fixed mindset is something that keeps you stuck. It's a very limited mindset and it kind of sees everything through the lens of its perspective. So it's kind of just like if you were to shine a flashlight, you know how you only see the one spot where you're shining it. Maybe you see a little bit around that because of the way the lights are shining. So you've kind of got like, it's looking out and it's kind of just like here. And like only the stuff in this area can be seen, right? That's going to be a fixed mindset. It's going to keep you very laser focused on everything that you perceive to be true. And now, as we've talked about in past videos, what you believe is true isn't necessarily true. It's all based on your upbringing, the subconscious beliefs you've created, and the experiences that you've had and the way that you interpreted them, right? So, perfect example in my own life of a fixed mindset. And let me backtrack this because our subconscious forms up until around the age of 7, and then it rules 95% of your mind. My pen is running out, so I don't know if you can see these. Hopefully you can. So 95% of your mind is ruled subconsciously. This is like your patterns. You know, you wake up, you stand up, you just get dressed, you go turn on the coffee maker, you go do this, you open the paper, you kind of browse, like your day-to-day things. You're not necessarily consciously going, I want to do this, I'm going to do these things, or I'm going to look at it this way. You're just kind of going through your habitual patterns, and this is where so many people go through the motions because they're just living from their subconscious mind. So with this said, because it gets formed up until the age of 7, who did you spend the most time with as a child? Most likely your parents or whoever were your primary caregivers, right? So you picked up on all of their beliefs and thought patterns and the things that they were saying, the way they were reacting to life. And that is what formed your subconscious beliefs. And it created what is now something that is probably become your fixed mindset. So for example, because our parents grew up in a very different time and age, and this is also going to depend where you grew up and what kind of culture you grew up in, and where in the world you were born and what you had access to. But our parents, that generation, grew up in a totally different time and place. And what kind of things did they learn and believe from their childhood? Because our grandparents had very, very fixed mindsets, because think about the lack of technology. Think about how much different it was back then for what kind of foods you ate, the work ethic you needed to have, and how you responded to life. there was a lot of fear because of the different wars. There was a lot of kind of some scarcity. There was the Great Depression, right? These things that created the beliefs of lack and scarcity. So many of then our parents grew up in a place of scarcity and lack and being more fearful, being judgmental and kind of afraid of things, right? So this fixed mindset gets passed on because that's all that they know. And then as we're kids and we're growing up, we are like little sponges and we're just absorbing everything they talk about and say and taking it in as truth. And so many of my personal beliefs were very limited and very fearful. And I started to pay more attention to this after my brother passed away, after I started doing some work looking for solutions for my anxiety, for my fear and like insecurities and major doubts around other people. And like, I wouldn't say paranoia, but I was always like getting caught into the negative and into all the bad things and getting really stuck there. So this was patterned programming. This was just kind of what my default was. And I was interested in finding out, well, how can I switch out of that? Because not everyone is stuck in the place I am. And this is where we come into the growth mindset. So the people you see who are highly successful, entrepreneurs, CEOs, celebrities, like high-end athletes, right? All of these people, they had to have and create a growth mindset. They most likely didn't grow up with it. Some people might have, depending on their parents, but majority of the population would have grown up with a very fixed mindset in different ways. My fixed mindset and my very strong beliefs could still be very different than your very strong beliefs were growing up, but we both probably had fixed systems of thinking like, this is the way, this is all I know and all I've seen, and this is what I believe in. And then you have that in your own life based on what you've seen, experienced, and what you believe. So in order to get to the top in any area, the growth mindset is so important. And this is what allows you to shine the light everywhere. Right? It's a horrible drawing of a flashlight, but you can see the difference. Anyway, so when you are focused on growth, there's less limitation. So the fixed mind sees a problem and it thinks, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I don't know how to solve this. This is the end of the world. I'm stuck. And it starts spiraling into all the bad things that could happen. And it's like, it just keeps going from there, right? The growth mindset is solution focused. So it sees a problem and it doesn't even see it as a problem. It goes, okay, this is just an obstacle. This is just a hurdle. This is the power of words here. And with NLP and neuro-linguistic programming is like looking at the words you use. So I personally don't say the word problem very much in my life anymore. I try not to. I say it's a hurdle. It's an obstacle. It's something for me to overcome. It's a challenge, a struggle, anything like that that's a little bit more, you can see that you can rise above it. So hurdle is a great word because you know what? You can jump over the hurdle and you can keep going. But a problem is a roadblock. It means like, that's it. I'm done, right? So the growth mind is looking for the solutions. It's saying, hey, well, okay, this didn't work, but maybe this will work. Or how can I adapt that and shuffle through? Or what would it look like if I could do this, right? It's always expanding and moving forward, this forward motion towards where it wants to be. So when I started shifting my own mindset years back to go traveling, to break out of the box of what I thought I was supposed to do, going to university, getting a degree that I didn't know if I even wanted, and then getting a solid job, settling down somewhere. None of that appealed to me. I wanted to travel, I wanted to experience, I wanted to make a difference, I wanted to be my own boss, I wanted to feel like I was living with purpose each day, and I couldn't see myself doing that in the traditional way. So I started to do this work on my mindset and look into how can I shift these things? How do I perceive the world, and how am I responding to what's coming my way? So the most successful people in the world have adopted a growth mindset, and this is what allows them to continue to push through no matter what comes their way. And I think it is actually a really big testament of these two mindsets right now, because sometimes you see, I'll own up to this, when I was younger, I would see celebrities on TV and they've got money, they're doing all these amazing things, and I would be very jealous. This comes from a fixed mindset. I'd be very jealous. I'd have envy, and I'd be like, oh, why do they deserve to be here? I was looking very negatively at people, and I kind of assumed that they all just got there in a really easy way, or it was just handed to them. And again, most people with a fixed mindset, we tend to kind of have that outlook on people and that kind of judgment that doesn't serve anyone. So I would kind of it was like my own sense of entitlement of like, well, why do they have that and I don't? And they must have been lucky, or someone handed it to them, and very negative towards them. And it wasn't until I started doing my own work through my struggles. I mean, the thing is like they all had, everyone we look up to had struggles, because nobody on this earth has a perfect life. So they all had to overcome things. They all had grief, they all had trauma, they all had loss, many of them had debt, they all had different things that were really big hurdles to overcome. But because they stayed focused on the growth, they stayed determined to make it happen, to get to where it is they wanted to be, they were successful eventually. And I think we forget that it doesn't happen overnight. So the fixed mind will stay focused and kind of be like, why me? It also keeps the ego involved a lot more. Whereas the growth mind is like, it doesn't matter what comes my way, I know I can navigate it. I know I'm supported. I know I will find a way through, because this is what I'm meant to be doing, or I deserve to be happy, or I'm just committed to my happiness. So no matter what, I'm going to keep doing it. And it was that exact mindset that I shifted into throughout my grief and trauma that saved my life, because I would not have kept trying. And I caught the awareness of the fact that I was in a fixed place and I was very stuck and I didn't like where I was. And I felt like I was presented with this moment of, I either stay here forever or I have to make a change and I have to figure out a new way to live this life and to survive. So I actually had this huge panic attack at a movie theater and came home and I was in the biggest mess possible. I just couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do, and I was so caught in grief and overwhelm and understanding purpose, and everything just was going through this existential crisis of oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on right now. And it was really scary to be so out of control. But it was in that darkness and that struggle that I went, this can't keep happening. So I have to find a way to figure this out and move through it. And that's what started me looking at the growth mindset and going, okay, how many things can I absorb and learn from that are going to help me make changes, and picking up every single possible thing that might help. And then continuing to look from a broader lens. So instead of continuing to see, this is what I perceive right now, this is the struggle, this is never going to end, it's so heavy, it's painful, life is hard, right? A very fixed small flashlight on the one situation or the few situations. Then I started to go, okay, how can I shine that light broader and look at more things so that I can interpret more and I can say, hey, but this is positive, and why don't I try this? Or what if I give that a shot? Or, you know, I have this person, I have all these different things that became now a part of my view and allowed me to move towards that. So let me know if this makes sense to you. I hope this brings some awareness for you about your own personal mindset. If you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button. And please just also know that this is the awareness that I personally find it fascinating to look at where my beliefs came from and to look at where all of these things started and what influence them. So if you want to do that as well, it's going to change everything for you, which is why I brought up the parents, the grandparents, the generational gap, the way that we all grew up learning certain things and believing them to be true, because that is where so many of your beliefs and your mindset comes from. So if you want extra support on this, I have an amazing free mindset training link down below that's going to break down the 3 steps that I use to break out of this place and to totally conquer my mind, get into a place of empowerment, confidence, and happiness. And you can check that out down below. And just remember, it's your choice which way you're viewing the world. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it because you've known this one for so long that most likely you just think this is the way that it is. But if you're open to growth, if you're open to seeing things differently so that you can make some improvements and find some benefit and some release, then you really want to look at, how can I adapt to a growth mindset? How can I choose to see things differently and look beyond the spectrum of what I've been taught and what I've believed for all these years? It will change everything. I'll see you guys on the next video, and if you have any questions, please comment them down below.